Hello and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Couch Brotato Podcast. Producer Adam's joining me on today's program as him and I go through Tom Hanks' entire filmography and we try to decide what 10 movies in Tom Hanks' storied career belong in the Couch Brotato Podcast Hall of Fame. And film fans know that this is going to be a pretty tall task as Tom Hanks has had a legendary career that spanned almost 40 years. So I'm curious to find out what producer Adam thinks goes in, and I hope that you guys are curious to see what we decide, what 10 movies go into the Hall of Fame. So, coming up next, the Couch Brotato Podcast presents to you the Tom Hanks Movie Hall of Fame. All right, got producer Adam joining me on the show this evening. Adam, how's it going, man?
Well, it's going, and me being on here, you know what that means. We're gonna be talking about some movies, maybe.
That's right. And we've been tossing around doing something kind of like this for a little while now. Just we are trying to, I guess, find the right time to do it and the right actor. And I texted you, I think it was last week or the week before, and said, "Hey, let's do it." And you gave me a list of guys that are actors that you wanted to do. And just as I was getting ready to text you mine, the only one that we had a common was Tom Hanks.
Which, he's an excellent actor. So
yeah,
it's like fate.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, since we both have Tom Hanks on our list, let's just do Tom Hanks. So today's episode, we have a Couch Brotato Hall of Fame. We throw bunches of shit in there. Like a couple weeks ago on our Hard Target episode, we had like, does Van Damme's mullet belong in the Hall of Fame? Yeah, we agreed on that. Yeah. Just random shit in the Hall of Fame. If you want to send us money so we could build said Hall of Fame, we greatly appreciate it. We are on Apple Pay, Cash App. I have a Venmo, PayPal, whatever. Send us a donation. We will try to build the Couch Brotato Podcast Hall of Fame. That's the goal.
We'll put one of those bricks with your name on it in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
sidewall.
The donor wing.
Right. Yeah.
These are all the people that made this happen. And Joe Smith with his $5 donation helped build the Couch Brotato Podcast Hall of Fame. So
excellent.
Maybe we'll even do T-shirts. I don't know. That's a long ways away. But yeah, if you want to help us build this, just hit me up. You know how to get a hold of us. Send us some money. That'd be awesome. But yeah, we are going to Tom Hanks is our first, I guess, inductee, actor-wise, into the Couch Brotato Podcast Hall of Fame. But when you are inducted into the Hall of Fame, like with baseball, they usually will have a cap with that player's team, the one he's most known for. But I figured in this instance, we would try to take his movies and what movies would go into the Hall of Fame with him. And since he has such a vast filmography, we'll do 10. So
build a list of 10.
Yes, I think 10's a pretty solid number. So I figured what we would do is I have our friends at Wikipedia, they're a godsend when it comes to needing to know anything, whether it's 100% real, to be debated. But in this case, you can't really lie about somebody's filmography. I looked it over. They don't say anything about Tom Hanks being in Speed or Enter the Dragon or anything like that. So I know it's pretty legit, this list is. So
yeah.
So I figured what we would do is we would go down his filmography. We won't do anything that he was like just has a cameo in, or any kind of documentaries, things like that. We just do the movies that he has been featured in. And then from that list, or from that, we'll kind of have our pool of contenders and then we'll whittle down to 10. Does that sound like a pretty good?
Nah, that sounds like a good plan.
All right. Well, I'm firing up Wikipedia right now to get his filmography. My phone doesn't want to cooperate. Probably still has dust in it from Louder Than Life this past weekend. So, okay, there we go. All right. The Tom Hanks Hall of Fame ceremony induction. We did not get a guest speaker. I tried to get his co-star from Bosom Buddies to be on the show, give like a little speech, but they didn't return my phone call. Imagine that.
Damn.
Yeah, Peter Scolari is his name. I don't think he's doing anything. I don't understand why he couldn't be on the show, but the joke's on him.
For shame. Yeah.
All right. But yeah, okay. We're get ready to read off this list of his vast filmography. He started his career in 1980 with a little horror movie, which I think it seems to be what a lot of actors, at least from that era, seem to be in, is like in a horror movie. Then they kind of work their way up.
Yeah.
First feature film role was in a movie called He Knows You're Alone. I didn't really do much research on it. I had never heard of it up until 5 minutes ago.
Yep.
So I'd say that definitely does not get any kind of consideration at all.
Yeah. It's not well known enough, at least from our perspective.
Right. So. Then his next film isn't until 1984. I would imagine that's because he's on Bosom Buddies. Who said Peter Scolari, where him and his roommate cannot find a place to live, so they dress up as women, and they move into an all-female apartment complex, which you can imagine 80 shenanigans ensue. I think it ran for a couple of years. I never watched it. I'd heard of it, but I only knew of Tom Hanks as dressing as a lady and Peter Scolari, who didn't return my phone call, so fuck him. Next movie is Splash, the Ron Howard mermaid movie, which I would put that one on the list because that's like his breakout role.
See, I almost put it on the list because it was his breakout role, but I bumped it for some of my favorites. So it is definitely a contender for bumping one of mine off in the grand list of 10 that we create.
Well, we'll just, it could warrant consideration whether it makes the final 10. Who knows?
Right.
All right. So he was kind of busy in 1984 too. He does Bachelor Party.
Mm-hmm.
This one's kind of a tough one.
Yeah.
It's coming off a Splash. He's headlining his own movies now. I would say we put it into the pool. I highly doubt it makes it though. This is kind of one of those, like, if he's a baseball player, this is like that year where he hits like 260 coming off of like a Rookie of the Year campaign.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a sophomore slump. But we'll put Bachelor Party on there. I don't think it makes it at the end, but.
Right.
All right, so Bachelor Party, The Man with the One Red Shoe, I will say no.
No.
That was also 1984. So yeah, he's got a kind of a string of comedies here. 1985. Oh, The Man with the One Red Shoes in 1985. Sometimes it's hard to read these on Wikipedia. They don't really just go year. They give you this grid, and the grid's kind of broken up weird. But The Man with the One Red Shoe and Volunteers are 1985. Volunteers has John Candy in it as well, reuniting from Splash. I'm going to say no to that one too.
Right.
Simply because it's not a very memorable movie. I just remember them being in the Peace Corps. And that's about it. 1986 gives us The Money Pit, Nothing in Common, and Every Time We Say Goodbye, which I did not know until just now is a Tom Hanks war film where he plays a genteel American in the Royal Air Force.
Okay. Yeah. No, I don't think I've ever seen that one either.
As much as I like The Money Pit, I don't think it gets consideration simply because of his huge catalog of hits coming down the road. I don't think it deserves it. The Money Pit would be that rebound year. Like, okay, this is the player we've seen in 1984.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he rebounds. He's hitting 300. He's got about 26, 27 home runs. He's knocked in 100. Like, okay, this is a superstar we thought we were getting in 1984.
Right.
But I don't think it warrants enough to get him in. 1987 is Dragnet. I am a huge Dragnet fan. I fucking love that movie. I still watch time to time. But it also suffers the same thing as The Money Pit. I think just going down his career, it's not going to make it. So I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no on that.
Yeah, I mean it's there's a lot of stuff in that hasn't aged very well. It's a relic of the 80s.
It is. I think that Money Pit and Dragnet are honorable mentions, but they're not on the list of 10.
Yeah. 1988, he gets Big. That I think is the movie that kind of bumps him up into another rung amongst like big name actors in Hollywood. I would say Big definitely goes on the list.
Big definitely goes on the list. I mean, one of the iconic scenes in cinema is him playing on the giant piano. So
with one Robert Loggia, who we absolutely adore here on this show. He also does Punchline. Him and Sally Field are comedians working their way up the comic scene to try to make it big. I'm going to say no to that one. It's okay, but that movie I've always found that movie to be kind of odd, simply because Tom Hanks and Sally Field there's a romantic subplot going on between the two of them in 1988, and then 6 years later, Sally Field plays Tom Hanks' mom in another movie that we'll get to after a bit, and I always find that weird. So I'm going to say no to Punchline, and in 88, that's it for 88. 89. Pains me to leave these two movies off the list because I have a special place in my heart for one of the movies. But in 1988, he does The Burbs. It's one of my favorite movies of his.
Yeah.
That is an insanely rewatchable movie. I remember that movie when I was a kid used to get so much play on HBO and Showtime. Like, you could always count on between 12 and like 4 o'clock, The Burbs would be on.
Yeah. I put it on my list, but I mean.
Okay, well, you know what? You have it on your list. I'll throw it on there as it will warrant consideration. Just because it's so good, and it's kind of one of those cult classic movies. I don't think it really got the love that it deserves.
Right. I don't think it wasn't like a box office hit or anything. I don't think. I think it was just.
In 1989, we also get, if we were doing a Hall of Fame with actors and animals, I think this movie gets in.
Yeah.
But being the Tom Hanks Hall of Fame, it doesn't. He did Turner and Hooch.
Yeah.
I think it's
his best movie, but it's a good animal companion movie for sure.
Yeah, that was 88, 89. We got a lot of actor dog movies. We got K9 with Jim Belushi and that German Shepherd, Cop 2. And then a couple years later, we got Top Dog with Chuck Norris and that looks like a sheep hound.
Yeah. See, we didn't. There's a lot of like animal companion movies that happened in the 80s and 90s, like, Free Willy and Beethoven, and you don't see those anymore.
Well, I think even going further, I think Turner Hooch is part of a subgenre, the dog cop movie.
Well, yeah.
Which we don't get enough of anymore. Like,
no, we don't.
The writers have, like, as we record this, are officially off strike now. They're back writing. Somebody out there, please write a dog cop movie, a buddy cop movie with a dog and a man or a woman. I don't care.
But we're just going to get a prequel to John Wick.
Yeah,
She's gonna be John Wick and his dog.
or John Wick's dog is an assassin. The one he
Yeah,
gets
there you
after.
go.
Yeah, perfect. That dog runs a Continental, but it's a kennel.
I love it.
Yeah, they have the Continental, which just came out on Peacock now. I think we should pitch that to them.
Yep, I like it.
The
Need
Cont
more
Kennel or
animals and
something
stuff.
like that. I but sadly we got to leave Turner and Hooch off the list.
Yeah.
90 he gets Joe versus Volcano, his first pairing with Meg Ryan, which they do a couple more movies we'll get to here shortly. One for sure probably makes it on the list. Second one I think warrants some consideration at least.
Yeah.
He also does the notorious box office bomb, The Bonfire of the Vanities.
Yeah.
Which I've seen that movie twice. I watched it when it came out, and I don't know how I ended up. We used to do a movie night with my mom's friend. They used to invite us over, and what her friends would do is they would just go rent like the new releases from this video store. And for some reason, one evening, one of the movies we watched was Bonfire of the Vanities. I'm like, why are you showing? I would have been like 10 or 11 at this time. Like, why are you showing an 11-year-old kid Bonfire of the Vanities? Like,
wow,
fucking adults don't want to watch that movie, let alone an 11-year-old kid. Watched it again a few years ago. Movie still sucks.
It still sucks today.
Yeah. I don't know if in 1990 or 92, whether this warrants it. I don't know if it meets the criteria, although he's in it quite frequently. He narrates the movie Radio Flyer.
Yeah, I mean,
but he's not featured in the movie. You just hear his voice, so I'm going to say no.
Right, and he's not credited either. So he's, of course, it's part of his filmography, but I don't believe he's in the credits.
After Radio Flyer, though, he goes on a run that I think you can count on one hand, like just like how many actors can go on this incredible run. He is just pumping out hit after hit after hit. And I think, honestly, Cruise definitely has a time frame where he is just on fire. Maybe De Niro and Pacino in the 70s, I would say. And then
maybe.
But this is about it. He ends 1992 with A League of Their Own.
Definitely on the list.
Which, yeah, that one definitely gets on the list. That is one of my all-time favorite baseball movies. And he's not the star of it, but he's featured quite prominently in it. And every scene he's in, he steals it. I mean, he's just absolutely incredible in that movie.
There's no crying in baseball.
Yeah, and you get one of the most, it's an iconic sports film. You get an iconic scene featuring him. Although my favorite line in that movie is when Gary Marshall hires him to be the manager. And he asks him if he's quit drinking. He says, yeah. He goes, I've given it up. And the owner, who's played by Gary Marshall, the Penny Marshall, the director's brother, he says to Jimmy Dugan, he says, oh, you've seen the error of your ways. He goes, no, frankly, Mr. Harvey, I just can't afford it. Gets me every time.
I love that movie. I just recently had surgery, and the first time I got up to use the bath after my surgery, they were pumping me full of liquids. And the nurse actually said something along the lines of, "Oh wow, you really had to go." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm Jimmy Dugan from the League."
Yeah, that I think that scene is probably on the Mount Rushmore of like movie pissing scenes, along with Leslie Nielsen and The Naked Gun.
Yeah,
those are like the top two for sure. I'm pretty sure I'm missing something else.
We'll do
Uh,
another Hall of Fame later for
yeah,
Russ.
well, just when we do A League of Their Own or The Naked Gun, we'll mention those in our Hall of Fame. Um, 93, he starts out with Sleepless in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
That one definitely gets
Yep.
in. I think that is
Yeah.
probably on the Mount Rushmore of romantic comedies. His
Yeah.
second pairing with Meg Ryan. I've only seen it a handful of times just because it's not really my speed. I don't really seek out
Yeah.
romantic comedies that often.
Neither
My
do I, but I mean, I've seen it enough where it's definitely a classic for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then he wins the first of two Academy Awards in Philadelphia. I would say Philadelphia deserves some consideration too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
He does.
a movie
Yep.
that, in terms
For that.
of culturally, has not aged well in terms of how the AIDS victims or AIDS, sufferers were treated, especially the gay
Mm-hmm.
community.
Right.
But it's a fantastic performance by him. And it also features The Streets of Philadelphia with Bruce Springsteen, which, if you want to take me out of a good mood, play that song.
Oh, yeah.
94, he wins his second Academy Award in a row for Forrest Gump. I definitely say Forrest Gump gets it. I think if there is a surefire first ballot movie that goes in, it has to be Forrest Gump. It's probably his most
Yeah.
iconic role. I would
I
not.
would agree
I
with
don't
that.
think it's
Yeah.
his best, but it's his most iconic for sure. We've even done a Forrest Gump movie episode on the program, so I'd say Forrest Gump gets in.
Forrest Gump definitely gets in.
Yeah. Let's see. Then we are into 1990, 95. Apollo 13 and Toy Story. Both of them
Yeah.
definitely deserve some consideration.
Yes.
With Apollo 13, I was watching something not too long ago. It was regarding the 95 film year, and looking back at the nominees for Best Picture that year, I think Apollo 13 is the only one that I would still put in the Best Picture race. Because
Mm-hmm.
there were so many great movies that came out in 95, Toy Story being one of them.
Right.
But yeah, like you could bump Braveheart, Babe, probably one I would bump. But yeah, Apollo 13, I'd say it's probably Ron Howard's best movie
I would
for
agree with that
sure.
too.
And then he also does Toy Story. Toy Story definitely
Mm-hmm.
gets, I think if there's a second one that needs to be put in for sure, it's the first Toy Story, simply because that
Yeah.
movie is a game changer in the animation world.
Yeah.
And I think in the Disney like animation renaissance, which started probably what, 90? No, probably 89
Uh,
with The Little Mermaid.
80. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that Buzz and Woody are probably the most recognizable animated characters from 89 forward.
Oh. Oh yeah. And like his performance and Alan's performance in that movie, like actually a lot of the toys really, they kind of made it not so. Um, I don't know how to put it. I don't know. Adults could enjoy it too.
Mm-hmm.
The way that Woody is portrayed is um very heavy handed sometimes. So,
Mm-hmm.
and he did a really good job.
96, he's not the star of it, but he's featured in it, and it's his directorial debut. That Thing You Do, as
Mm-hmm.
cool of a movie as it is, I'd say it doesn't get in. And I think it
Yeah.
suffers. It suffers from like some of the other movies. His catalog is so big, it would be unfair to try to make a case for it, knowing that there's no way it gets in.
He's great in it. I like watching it, and when it's on, I'll keep watching it. But yeah, no, I think just it gets beat out by other movies of his.
1998. He does Saving Private Ryan and You've Got Mail. I think Private Ryan definitely does.
Yeah, Private Ryan does.
I honestly think that movie, for me anyways, doesn't work as well if Tom Hanks isn't Captain Miller. I think he put somebody else in that role and just doesn't work quite as well. Especially the scene where he finally reveals to everybody after they've had this pool for years or for months now about what he did back home. That scene still gets me to this day, where he basically tells everybody that he is only doing this to get back home.
Yeah.
You Got Mail is an interesting case. I would say yes, but I don't think it's got a strong case simply because it's the third pairing with him and Meg Ryan. It was a big hit at the box office, but I think if you think of those two together, you're always going to gravitate towards Sleepless in Seattle first.
Yeah, I think Sleepless in Seattle being on the list kind of bumps this one off.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on there just because it was a big hit, but I don't think it gets in. We've got 12 movies so far. And we are still in the
90s.
Incredible run that Tom Hanks is currently on.
We're still in the 90s, too.
99, and we get Toy Story 2 and The Green Mile.
Green Mile, for sure. Toy Story 2, I think, gets beat out by the first Toy Story because of, I think its performance is a little bit better in the first Toy Story. As Woody, anyways.
I have a problem, doing all the Toy Story movies in this simply because I think that they've done them better. Toy Story is one of those series where I actually I like 2 better than 1, and I like 3 the best of all of them.
Okay.
But he kind of set the template with 1. And it's like with the rest of you, okay, I'm just fine tuning the formula that already worked.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm going to put it on the list. Toy Story 2, and I think Toy Story 3. But
I think that
I think if another one gets in, it would be Toy Story 3, simply because Woody's trying to deal with the fact that Andy's growing up and doesn't need him anymore. It's kind of like the arc, is definitely the arc of the movie. And I think a lesser actor, say with Saving Private Ryan, if that's somebody else voicing Woody, it doesn't work quite as well.
Yeah.
But
I agree with that.
I'll put them both in. Let's see. We are in 2000. We get Castaway. I think Castaway deserves.
Yeah.
For sure.
Definitely deserves it. You can't tell me that you don't get sad whenever he's yelling for Wilson. So
that is probably one of the best performances I've ever seen. He essentially has to act against a soccer, or it's a volleyball.
Volleyball, yeah.
Probably a good 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah.
He's acting against an inanimate object, and he's just killing it. So yeah, I'd say that one gets in. 2002, we get Road to Perdition and Catch Me If You Can. I am going to say yes to Road to Perdition simply because it's a different role than we are accustomed to seeing him in.
Okay.
He's a not so much a villain, but he's not a nice guy.
Yeah. If you ask me, though, I think both of them probably get bumped for something better. But yeah, we can go ahead and put Road to Perdition on there.
Catch Me If You Can, I would say it would at least merit some consideration, but I don't think it gets in either, simply because that's a Leo movie with Tom Hanks kind of sprinkling in some Tom Hanks seasoning.
Yeah.
Like,
The main dish is Leo, and then you got Tom Hanks
yeah,
cheese on
Tom
top.
Hanks is Old Bay seasoning in this. Like, the movie's good, but you add some Old Bay seasoning in there, it's fucking kicking it up a notch. Let's see. I noticed that once we get past Catch Me If You Can, his filmography starts to get a little bit spotty. It's
Yeah,
kind of like a Catch Me If You Can is like kind of like the last of that incredible Tom Hanks run that we had.
yeah.
Um, in 2004, we get The Lady Killers and The Terminal
Hmm.
and The Polar Express, which is animated. I'm going to say no to The Lady Killers simply because that, considering who's involved in that movie doesn't work. And I don't think
Yeah,
it's very good.
no.
The Terminal, I'm going to say no to The Terminal as well. It's a solid movie, but it's not what we're accustomed to. And coming off of what we had experienced for damn near 10 years, it's kind of a
It's not.
letdown.
Yeah,
And it's
it
Spielberg
is a
and Tom
letdown.
Hanks together. It should be better than it is.
It should be, but it's not.
And then The Polar
Definitely.
Express, I would say yes, simply because it's a holiday staple. I don't think it's a great movie personally.
No,
Like the animation's incredibly weird in it.
it's creepy.
Yeah,
It's uncanny valley.
but I think considering it's one of those modern holiday classics now, it gets played every
Hmm.
year at Christmas time. I'd say
Yeah.
it deserves some consideration. All right. Doesn't really get anything. He does some voice work in Cars, and he does and fuck, I just exited out of Wikipedia altogether. Curse my damn clumsy
I,
thumbs.
I have it up right now.
Uh,
He did voice work in Cars, but it was like a cameo, so
yeah.
that does not get considered. He also is a narrator on a short in 2005, but in 2006 we get the Da Vinci Code.
Um, I'd say no to the Da Vinci Code. That was a big hit when it came out, but it's not a very good movie.
No, it's not. I know it was a hit and like everybody loved the books, but it's one of those things where you get a run of movies that are everybody loves it and it's like big for the time, and then uh, you know uh, we had those years with like the Hunger Games and the Maze Runner and all of those like angsty teen novels being made into movies too, and they're just okay now. So
Hey, I'll still ride for the Hunger Games.
I think my
I'll still ride for the Hunger Games though. I fucking the first two movies were actually really good. The rest of them could take them or leave them. They have another one coming out in November, I think, don't they? Pretty sure there's like a fourth Hunger Games movie coming out,
yeah, oh
or
yeah,
is it a
there
fifth
is.
one? Because then they break the last one into
Oh yeah,
two.
two. Yeah, it's a fifth one,
Let's see,
but
2007, we get a brief voice cameo in the Simpsons movie, which we already said the voice
yeah,
stuff we're not counting, and he does Charlie
right.
Wilson's War with
Yep.
Julia Roberts and Philip Seymour Hoffman. I'm going to say no to that one. It's a good movie. I thought it was a very fun movie, but at the end of the day, it's not very memorable. Like when I'm thinking of
Yeah,
Tom Hanks movies, I don't think of Charlie Wilson's War right away.
we're basically measuring everything to the bar of his great run in the '90s. So yeah, I think it gets bumped for sure.
Let's see. 2008, he has a cameo in his son's starring role in The Great Buck Howard. I'm going to say no because I don't know who the fucking Great Buck Howard is. 2009.
Angels and Demons.
Yeah. no, if we're not putting the first one in, we're definitely not putting the second one in. And those are movies that seem to get worse as they go on.
For sure.
2010, we get Toy Story 3 and Larry Crown. I'm going to say yes to Toy Story 3 simply because we got 2 and 1 in there. I think it's personally his best work in those is in this one here. But whether it gets in, I don't know. And Larry Crown, I'm going to say no. I've watched that movie once. I think it has Julia Roberts in it too. It's like, I
didn't like it.
Yeah, so I'm going to say yes to Toy Story 3.
Okay.
Let's see. And now we are in 2011. We got Extremely Loud, Incredibly Close. Surprising Best Picture nominee that year. I don't think I even finished it.
Yeah, I think it was the subject matter that made it have a little bit more clout, but I don't think it warrants a Tom Hanks Hall of Fame.
Yeah. He also voiced voiced Woody in a couple of Disney shorts.
Mm-hmm.
So no to those as well, since it's primarily just a short film. Let's see. Now we are in 2012. The Wachowski brothers, Cloud Atlas. I don't know if I've seen this one. As a matter of fact, I haven't seen it. I've heard very mixed things about it.
I didn't like it.
Really?
I say no.
Okay. Well, I'm going off of what you said. I'm going to say no to it too. I've heard anywhere from it's going to be one of those movies that like people don't like now, but 20, 25 years down the road, they're going to look at it as like a misunderstood classic, to where it's a piece of shit.
I've only seen it the once, and I was super bored. But
that's probably why I never watched it. Is like usually if I hear enough negative things about a movie, I probably won't check it out. Yeah. And the Wachowski brothers are very hit and miss with me. Well, I guess the Wachowski sisters now, I do apologize, but at the time they were the brothers. The Wachowskis.
Yes.
I do apologize for the flub. Their movies were very hit and miss with me. Like The Matrix, Bound was good. The second Matrix I thought was solid. Speed Racer was fucking like, that is a visual delight. The movie itself is a little uneven, and then some of their other stuff. So I don't know. I'm going to leave Cloud Atlas off because I've never seen it. And I'm going simply off of you saying it's not any good. So
yeah.
2013, we get Captain Phillips and Saving Mr. Banks. I'm going to say yes to Captain Phillips. And I'm going to say this because I think him as Captain Phillips is the best Tom Hanks role post that incredible run, that 10-year run. This is the best thing he's done coming out of that.
I would agree with that.
And he got an Oscar nomination too for it. So I'm going to say yes to that.
Yes. I want to say yes to Saving Mr. Banks as well, simply because even if you haven't seen it, and it's not really a him movie, but he pulls off Walt Disney really well. And I am always enthralled and encapsulated by his monologue about his delivering his father's newspaper when he was a kid. Every time that monologue comes on, I watch it all the way through. It's just captivating. So must say he did a really good job in that movie. My only one that I'm going to argue for.
Okay. I don't think I've seen Saving Mr. Banks either.
It's good. I like it. I mean, even if you don't watch the entire thing, I highly recommend you watch that scene with him and talking about his father's newspaper.
2015, we get Bridge of Spies. That's a good movie. It's always going to be remembered for Mark Rylance stealing a Best Supporting Actor away from Sylvester Stallone's performance in Creed, which I still say he stole it. That should have gone to Stallone. Have you seen Creed?
Yeah,
I was
I
gonna say,
have
yeah,
seen Creed.
Stallone is like that's the best work Stallone's ever done, and considering he was like the king of Hollywood for a long time, and they give those guys those makeup Oscars anyways. Yeah, they should have given it to Stallone. Not saying anything
Yeah,
was wrong with Mark Rylance's performance in that. He's actually really, really good, but and he probably would have won it any other year, but you should have given that to Stallone. I mean, it's fucking awesome in Creed, but this is the
yeah.
Tom Hanks Hall of Fame, not me bitching about Oscar Oscar robberies because we could that would be like a 5-part miniseries. Let's
Oh, we
see.
could talk about that forever.
Yeah, he was in a movie called Hologram for the King. I don't think I've
Hmm.
ever seen this one either. So I'm going to say no, simply because I've never heard of it, and that's rare territory for me.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of it either.
Um, 2016, he plays Captain Sullenberger in Clint Eastwood's Sully. I'm going to say
Hmm.
no. Sully's a good movie, but
It's not Captain Phillips.
yeah, it's one of those ones where it's like, okay, it's kind of like you're kind of coasting on.
Yeah.
Uh, he's now at that point of his career where he's kind of like the baseball player who's kind of near the end of his career. He's still putting up solid numbers.
Mhm.
He hasn't lost his starting job yet, but it's like, okay, he's not the player that he was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
He also does Inferno, the third of those Da Vinci Code movies, which definitely
Mhm.
no, because it's by far the worst of the three, and that's really saying something. That's quite the accomplishment
Yeah.
considering how bad the other two are. Um, 2017, he does The Circle, which is a little movie where he plays like a straight villain in that. He's kind of
Yeah.
like
I
a.
wanted to see it. I never
It's
did.
that's it's all right if you catch it on TV. It's like okay, I'll and you have nothing to do. Like okay, I'll throw it on for let it play, but
Mhm.
I'm not actively
Well,
seeking
I
it
like
out.
I
Uh,
like the actors in it. I just never got to see it, so
yeah, he
I just
plays like an
never
evil
got around to
version of
watching
like Steve Jobs. Uh,
it. Okay.
I remember I only watched it because I used to be part of these groups on Facebook that sold the digital codes out of movies,
Mhm.
and somebody gave me a code of that, so I redeemed it, and I ended up redeeming on the wrong format, so it never transferred over. So I'm like, oh
Oh,
fuck,
that sucks.
I might as well watch it. But yeah, it's it's there.
It's a movie. Out of all
Yeah.
the movies I've seen, it's one of them.
2017, he does The Post with Meryl Streep. I'm going to say no to The Post. It's a solid movie. I think it even got an Oscar nomination for Best
Yeah.
Picture, but I
Yeah, no, it's like incredibly loud or yeah, incredibly loud or what is it? Well,
it,
something loud and incredibly
it's
close. The subject matter is
extremely
good,
loud and
but
incredibly close.
thank you, thank you. But it's the subject matter that elevates the movie, and then I mean, other than
It's a
that,
better movie.
yeah.
I at least finished The Post. Um, 2018, we get Toy Story 4. I'm going to say no to Toy Story 4 simply because we have three of them on here already.
Yeah,
And I think in terms of in the Toy Story realm, it's probably the weakest of the four. It's still good. It's still a really, really good movie. And it's better than most of the stuff Pixar's done in recent times, but I don't think it gets in the Hall of Fame for that.
I am very I don't want to say hated in my I'm
Reviled.
uh reviled in my household for liking Toy Story 4 at all.
You know
Um,
what? I'm always fond of the Keanu Reeves Duke Kaboom.
I like Duke Kaboom, but I think that the character Woody, if you haven't seen Toy Story 4, spoiler alert, but it's been years, so oh well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that the character of Woody abandons everything that he's told the toys from the past three movies. Be there for your kid, no matter what. Just be there for your kid. And he's just like, all right, whatever. I'm just gonna go. She doesn't like me anymore, so I'm just gonna go and hang out with my old girlfriend that randomly showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, you just abandoned all of your principles. Your entire character from the inception of the Toy Story movies is just gone because we need a plot device.
Hey, you know what? Even though he's a toy, I mean, Woody's got needs too. Can't fault him for it. He really doesn't have anything of note except for the next movie I'm going to name, and I think this one is the last of his movies I think deserves some consideration, and that is his portrayal as Mr. Rogers in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Yes, that does deserve some consideration.
Simply because, Fred Rogers is a beloved children's television host. Tom Hanks nails it perfectly. When they said that he was playing Mr. Rogers, like, okay, I could see it, but then when you see the trailer for it, then when you see the performance in it, which he got an Oscar nomination for that too. Blew my mind. I don't think it gets in at the end of the day, but I think it deserves to be considered for it. So
yeah,
I'm going to throw it on the list.
Okay.
And then after that, we have, I'm trying to write this down. I should just put the damn Mr. Rogers movie. I don't know why I'm fucking putting the whole fucking title here. I'm an idiot. But after that, we have Greyhound, which he made in 2020, came out during the pandemic, which sold to Apple. That's a good movie. Don't think it deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but that was a damn good movie. And when you were starved for entertainment in 2020, it's the best thing since sliced bread. Like my first watch that, I was like, man, that's like fucking Hunt for October Submarine good. And I've watched it since then, and I had to pump the brakes on that opinion a little bit.
Yeah,
It's not in the class of Hunt for Red October or but U571, yeah, they're sharing a mailman.
Yeah.
He did News of the World, another pandemic movie, which doesn't get in.
No.
Finch.
Another Apple TV movie.
Yeah, no. He was in Elvis. He played Colonel Tom Parker. I'm definitely going to say no to that. I have not watched Elvis yet, but I've seen some of the stuff with Tom Hanks, and that fucking accent he does is absolutely atrocious. And I'm like, what are you thinking, dude?
I mean, they thought the same thing of his Forrest Gump accent, but this is on a whole new level.
Yeah, I'm going to say no to that one. He did Pinocchio for Disney Plus. I have not seen that. Heard it's an absolute train wreck.
Yeah.
Then he was also in A Man Called Otto, which I started to watch, but I also suffer from old man syndrome and fall asleep a lot in a chair. So I don't think I've ever
seen that one.
It's solid. He plays kind of like he's doing his best Clint Eastwood from Gran Torino without the racism.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it was solid what I seen. I would just have yet to finish it. And then you told me he's in Asteroid City, which I have not seen as of yet, but you said it's pretty good. But does it warrant going into the Tom Hanks Hall of Fame?
No, he's not in it enough.
Okay.
He's a minor character. Yeah.
Okay. And that is it for him. And we have, let me count these down. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 22 movies up for consideration.
Would have to knock that in half and then some.
Okay, so I'm just going to knock the no-brainers out of here first. Forrest Gump is a yes.
Yes.
For sure. I'm going to say I will say Toy Story is a definite yes. The first one.
Sad, strange little man. You have my pity. Farewell.
Let's see. Castaway is a definite yes. I mean, at least that's what I think.
Yep. I'm just going to do lines from everything.
Well said. Let's see. I'd almost say Philadelphia because he won an Oscar for it, but I don't know if I feel comfortable bumping something else that warrants it. So
I think
our three definites are so far Forrest Gump, Toy Story, and Castaway. Those are the definite, those ones that get in. What we've got left, we have Splash, Bachelor Party, Big, The Burbs, A League of Their Own, Sleepless in Seattle, Philadelphia, Apollo 13, Saving Private Ryan, You've Got Mail, Toy Story 2, The Green Mile, Road to Perdition, Catch Me If You Can, The Polar Express, Toy Story 3, Captain Phillips, Saving Mr. Banks, and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Okay, so I'm gonna knock out some just to, and you can argue with me, but I think we knock out the rest of the Toy Story movies.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Simply
because Toy Story. Yeah.
Yeah, he created the template, the formula, the recipe for Sheriff Woody and Toy Story, and it just really everything else is just like, varying the flavor a little bit. Like, like it was good. I could add a pinch of salt to it. Toy Story 2 is pinch of salt. You know what? Could use a little paprika too. So Toy Story 3 is that's the paprika. I'm okay knocking the Toy Story movies off. Like I said, as much as he's good in them, I can't see three movies hogging up 3 spots when there's other stuff that could warrant consideration.
Yeah.
What about Splash?
I think okay, so Splash is iconic, but I think it gets bumped for any of the other rom-coms simply because they're more prominent. I think Splash is kind of I mean, it was one of the first ones that he's done, but it's still not his iconic role. I think.
I think the Bachelor Party gets knocked out too.
Yeah,
simply because it's like, okay, it's kind of a stab at raunchy comedy. It proves that he could be a leading man. But I think between the movie not aging very well, especially that fucking scene with the donkey. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay knocking Bachelor Party out as well, just because, I mean, it's one of those ones when you're going down the list of Tom Hanks movies, I don't think it's going to get like, oh yeah, he was in, you're going to mention Bachelor Party before you mention like Forrest Gump or.
Yeah, you're not going to, I think that Big warrants being on the list.
I think so too. I was going to say Big. I would put in simply because that kind of catapulted him into like, okay, you can headline your own movie.
Yeah,
and I think it's kind of like the early, like this is the first. Tom Hanks kind of has that template for being like the relatable everyman. He's not like, especially during this time, it's usually you had like the guys that were like doing well at playing like darker characters like De Niro, or you had the action guys like Schwarzenegger, Stallone, to a lesser extent. There really was kind of like, I'm sure I'm probably missing somebody, but I think Tom Hanks kind of perfected the everyman role that was missing in like the 80s and the 90s. And I think this is like the early template for what you'd get out of him later on.
Yeah.
And plus, going back to when, going to like our Midnight Run episode, which you can listen to wherever you get podcasts. Shameless plug of the episode. Got it. Originally, Robert De Niro wanted to do Josh Baskin. And this is a totally different movie, a movie that I don't think works.
No.
But De Niro as Josh Baskin.
Not at all. I don't see that at all. No.
And I think this is the start of Tom Hanks like being in roles that like no one else can do.
Right.
And the movie isn't going to work quite as well with somebody else besides him. Not always like that, but this is like the first one of those. So yeah,
if we had an actor that stays off of the Eric Stoltz recast award that we have in some of our previous podcasts. It's Tom Hanks. He stays off the list for sure.
All right, I'm going to run down a few of these real quick. I think that they should get in. A League of Their Own. Yeah.
For sure. Yep.
I say Sleepless in Seattle. I think it's kind of like one of the iconic rom-coms.
If Splash doesn't make the list, that does for sure.
Yeah. I say Apollo 13.
Yep.
For sure. So let me put Apollo 13. I think Saving Private Ryan.
Yes. Very much so.
Okay, so and let's see, 1, 2, 3. Philadelphia, simply because it's his first Oscar and it proved that he's not just a comedic actor.
Okay.
So that gives us 9. So we've got The Burbs. You've Got Mail, The Green Mile, Road to Perdition, Catch Me If You Can, The Polar Express, Captain Phillips, Saving Mr. Banks, and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Reading off the ones that we have already, I think it's safe to say The Burbs doesn't make the cut.
Right.
As much as I love it.
I'm going to narrow it down to 2, and let me think. Let me see what you think. But Captain Phillips and The Green Mile.
See, I was going to say Captain Phillips and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Okay. I really liked him, The Green Mile, though, man.
I like The Green Mile, but I don't think it's very memorable. Like when it comes to like some of his other movies.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good movie. I mean, it's a little sappy in some spots. I personally, this is my hot take of the episode, the Frank Darabont Stephen King adaptations. I think it's the third best one he's done. I think Shawshank Redemption, obviously, we consider that on the show one of the best movies of all time. And The Mist is a fucking awesome movie. An awesome movie that kind of gets lost in the shuffle. And maybe coming up as part of our spooky season month coming up here starting next week. We'll make a case for, I think Road to Perdition gets the boot too. It's a good movie, but once again, it's one of those things where I think if you're listing his movies, you're not remembering that one. Catch Me If You Can. It's a Leo movie.
It's a Leo movie, yeah. I think it gets the boot just for that because, I mean, like you said, it's just a little dash of Tom Hanks in a Leo movie.
Polar Express, no. At the end of the day, that fucking animation creeps me out. And I know you really enjoy this movie, but Saving Mr. Banks, I don't think makes the cut either. Especially when you're looking at these three.
Yeah.
3 movies that we're debating between the end.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm probably going to ride for Captain Phillips. That is a fucking banger of a movie. Still incredibly rewatchable. And that's kind of how I warrant like how good movies are if I can revisit them again.
Yeah.
And I can walk in anytime during Captain Phillips and just be locked in.
Okay.
But I mean,
good
like,
with giving it to
we never really discussed though, like A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I mean, he fucking nails
he
an
nails it.
iconic, like an American icon. Like, let's be real, Fred Rogers is like the fucking man. Like daytime television as a child, if you stayed home sick from school, was basically built around Mr. Rogers, Sesame Street, and fucking Bob Barker.
Yeah.
All fucking icons, all American icons, and Sesame Street's still rolling, but we don't have Bob Barker and Fred Rogers anymore. But he fucking nails it.
He does. I don't think. I mean, he does, and it's mainly because, like I said before, with the other movies, it's the subject matter that elevates the movie, and he nails it. He does. But I think that when it comes to a movie that you think about Tom Hanks being in versus, okay, this is a movie about Fred Rogers. I think that Captain Phillips beats it out.
Okay. Or do we bump one of the other nominees?
Okay, what do we got on there?
As of right now, R10.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why I was typing in Captain Phillips and I typed in Captain America.
That would be a completely different movie.
Yeah. That would have been like a 10-minute, that'd have been a 10-minute Disney short. We have Forrest Gump, Toy Story, Castaway, Big, A League of Their Own, Sleepless in Seattle, Apollo 13, Saving Private Ryan, Philadelphia, and Captain Phillips. That's the 10 we've got right now.
I can't bump any of those.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to bump anything, it would be Sleepless in Seattle just because it's a rom-com, but I can't do that just because it's a rom-com.
Yeah, I think that with romantic comedies, especially from the 90s on, that's the template, or that's the movie that every romantic comedy strives to be. It's like there's 3 or 4. Pretty Woman's obviously one, and I think Sleepless in Seattle is one of those too, that like that's the movie we want to be. And they copy like not so much the story, because I don't see too many widowers calling into a radio show, but kind of like that similar.
Yeah.
So is this I can't bump Sleepless in Seattle. I mean, I personally, if this was my favorite Tom Hanks movies, I would be bumping 3 or 4 off these to make sure I got room for the Burbs.
Right. Oh yeah.
Because I mean, like everybody's got the fucking creepy neighbors that they wonder if they're murdering people. But it's not a Hall of Fame movie. If you're okay with this, man, I'm totally cool going with them. All right.
Yeah, I'm cool with it.
All right, we've got our list. So for those of you not paying attention, which I'm sure we probably lost you 5 minutes into this episode, but if you are still with us an hour or 2 minutes into it, the official Tom Hanks Couch Brotato Podcast Movie Hall of Fame selections are Forrest Gump, Toy Story, Castaway, Big, A League of Their Own, Sleepless in Seattle, Apollo 13, Saving Private Ryan, Philadelphia, and Captain Phillips. I'm good with that list. I'll sleep well at night with that list.
Yeah, I like that list too. I like it a lot.
All right, yeah, I won't like wake up in the middle of the night like, fuck, we should have put Splash in there instead of fucking Philadelphia, which will never happen. But
well, let me ask you this now: what's the best Tom Hanks movie of that list?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to say Castaway. Like, you're talking about like best movie or best performance?
Let's do performance.
Performance is Castaway, simply because he has nothing to act against except for an inanimate object, and I don't think anybody's pulling that off.
Yeah.
Favorite movie though, out of that list, I don't know. That's tough, man. I would say probably Saving Private Ryan.
Okay.
Because I'm a sucker for, like, I know it's not cool to like be enamored with more movies, and I tend to gravitate towards that type of stuff. But just the fact that before that movie came out, there was nothing like it that really came out. And I think Tom Hanks is so good in that movie, and I don't think anybody else is pulling off Captain Miller. I don't think anybody's doing that.
He's excellent in that movie.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, like, Apollo 13 is another good one though, man. That movie comes on TV, like that scene in Apollo 13 where they're trying to figure out what vital functions they need to keep that under the amps they need. Like, oh, man, that's fucking thrilling. That's thrilling movie making right there. Like, and I know it's gonna happen, and I'm like, fuck, it's over. They're not gonna make it.
Yeah. Even though you know they're gonna make it.
And Kevin Bacon's fucking dying. Tom Hanks is holding shit together. Oh man, such a good movie.
Yeah.
Well, I think that does it, man. I'm satisfied with that list. That's a good Hall of Fame list. Tom Hanks, you should be proud. That's a good list to be the first actor inducted into the Couch Brotato Podcast Hall of Fame.
Yep. If you would accept the award, we would give you one, but we know that you're extremely busy. So,
he is a fan of typewriters. His award, we could like give him a gold spray painted old typewriter.
I like that we're spray painting it gold.
Well, I don't got that kind of money for fucking like to get one gold plated. I'm begging for fucking money at the beginning of this episode to build a Hall of Fame. That most likely would just be in the garage.
I mean, hey, we can put the gold spray painted typewriter in the garage and call it the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Hope you guys and gals enjoyed this episode. If you disagree with our list, if there's something that we left out that you think warrants consideration, or you just think our list sucks, whatever, feel free to contact us. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads. I know I keep saying this. I do need to get on TikTok. I need to go through a training course with my son to show me how to make videos on there. Maybe I'll do that this weekend. You can find our links in the show description, so please reach out to us. You can also reach us by email at couchbrotatopodcast@gmail.com. And if you like what you heard today, please help support the show by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. We do greatly appreciate it, and that also helps us out in search results. If someone wants to look up Tom Hanks Hall of Fame, we would be one of the first episodes they would find. So that would help us out immensely. So until next week, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye, everybody.